Hello everybody, thanks for checking me out again. A friend of mine asked me to build him a chessboard. I don't typically do things for a fee, but this one I am. So I'm just looking at the wood I still have here before I try to go to the store, and I actually think I have enough. This is a piece of birch, it's unfinished 4/4 birch. And this is actually called Meranti. It's a dark wood. It is about as dark as walnut, but the grain's not quite as pretty. It's a lot cheaper though, so if you're looking for a replacement for walnut, this isn't a bad choice. I wouldn't use it for a cutting board, but for furniture and things like that, it would be absolutely fine. So first thing I need to do is plane it to a nice even thickness. And then I gotta put a straight edge on it. And then I gotta cut some strips. So let's get to planing. All right, first pass. Earplugs are in, safety glasses are on. Let's give this a try. Good enough for me. Now I just got to put a straight edge on each of them. I'll cut them to size first. But yeah. All right, I'm just gonna put a straight edge on these before I cut the lengths out of them. This one actually looks fairly straight already. Just marking this right at 14 inches. That gives me some extra room at the end. The board itself is actually only going to be 12 by 12. And one piece of scrap. All right, my table saw is set to just over 1.5 inches, about 1/16 of an inch over. So let's make some cuts, see how this goes. All right, I got my pieces laid out on some clamps. Now it's time to just flip them up and spread some glue. Ooh, got a hard spot there. That's probably way too much. All right, now we just play the waiting game. I'll probably take a wet paper towel and just wipe up that excess glue, but that's about it. Then we got to square off the ends and cut some strips. All right, it's been about 5 hours, maybe 6. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out of clamps now. You really only have to keep it clamped for an hour. That one's tight. All right, I'm gonna try to square this off. I've got my miter out, and I don't really love doing this, but it's the only way I have to really square this thing. This is a bit too big for this, but we're gonna give it a shot. All right, I hate doing this, but I don't have a choice but to run this against the fence. And we're just gonna take another half a blade kerf off the other side to get this one as smooth as that side. Last one. And there they all are. So now we gotta re-glue and clamp. I hate using the table saw for that because they're not perfect, but that should come out pretty good. So I decided to add some end clamps to it just to square it up a little better. It's still not perfect, but I did get it over more to the point that I won't have to take so much off. It'll just be less than half a blade kerf and it'll all be lined up. Still see a little gap there, but that will fill and that won't be an issue at all. It's all nice and tight, so we're just gonna leave that for, I don't know, probably till tomorrow morning. All right, it's the next morning. I just pulled this thing out of clamps. Got to scrape this glue off and then assess how bad any gaps in it might be. I'm actually going to sand it so it'll slide across the table saw easier before I square it off. But again, same thing, just the cheap little plane, and I just buzz these right off. Just enough to flatten it out so I can hit it with the sander. Just like that. All right, so I just made a little sled kind of here to run this thing through my planer. I put blocks on the front and back just in case there is any snipe. It'll snipe on those instead. And I did have to wedge up this corner just a little bit, hoping I got enough hot glue to keep everything in place while it runs through. But we'll see soon enough. Alright, so that's how it looks after that. That worked better than I thought it would. Alright, so my miter gauge for my table saw, it doesn't really fit all that snug in there. But fortunately, my actual miter saw can cut about 14 inches. So I've got this lined up, so it's just taking about half a blade curve off the majority. And that's just to smooth these edges here. So we'll see how this goes. There's probably going to be some blowout at the back end. Actually, not too bad. I just got to flip it over and do the other side now, but that worked pretty well. So there are a few imperfections in this. There's one here. Don't know if you guys can pick that up or not. There's a little one here and one here. So I'm just going to put some wood glue in them, wipe it flat with my finger, and then quickly sand over it. That'll fill it with sawdust. Now if you look, you do still see them, but they're full. So a little bit there, that little one there, and a little bit on the edge. So I have this scrap piece of Purple Heart here. I'm going to cut it, see if I can possibly use it for anything. I actually don't like using this, but I have it, so why not? It's really heavy, it's really hard, and my saw does not like to cut it. And cutting this small of a width actually isn't the greatest idea. But why not? I have a really fine tooth blade on here. It's like a 60 tooth. So we'll see. That's why I hate cutting it. One more. So my miter joints aren't really lining up. They're just a little bit loose, so I'm using a really thin piece here to give me about an extra degree of cut to try to make these fit just a little better. And what I'm doing is I cut these a little bit large at first, and then if it's too big, I can sneak up on it. All right, so that's pretty much what it's going to look like. All right, I've got this clamped with the borders on it. The miter is actually tightened up pretty good. Right, so made a few passes through the table saw. That's going to be the bottom. I still have to sand the top, but I actually still have to sand this more because there's some CA glue I got to get off of there. But I pretty much got the edge profile how I want it. I'll probably hit this with a round over all the way around. That's a little better. All right, I got this sanded to 220 grit. I'm just gonna clean it off and see what it's looking like. This is the bottom, but we'll see what we got. Ooh. That was more than I had expected.